Hi, everyone. I'm Monica, and we are back with reJUVEnation, Episode 5. This one's going to be a little bit of a raw one, kind of going on our emotions right after the game. After losing our second game in a row, Juve fell short 2-1 in Porto. So we head to Turin at a bit of a disadvantage. And we'll get right into it after we talk about our guest. So if you want to introduce yourself, and I actually thank him for coming in short notice. I kind of got mixed up in my schedule, and it was all my fault. And I was gonna go solo, but he saved the day. So let us know who you are.
Well, my name is Luca. For those who do not know me or recognize me, this is my first time on, I guess, the podcast with Monica. We have talked and met before, so before even getting into anything, I just want to say how amazing her takes are and how great her perspective is. There's so many voices on the Twitter universe nowadays, and I think one that I can always rely on to be just always straight up and actually on point has been Monica's. So it's an actual privilege. It's an honor to even be here, even though it was, last minute. But here, I'm here for it, and hopefully we can sum up everyone's thoughts and feelings with this recording.
Sounds good. Again, thank you for the short notice, kind of saving my blushes here. Um, so at the start of every post game, for sure, um, I kind of hit on the post match comments. So Pirlo spoke today along with Chiesa, Danilo, and Alexandro. So for the first comment, we'll start with Pirlo. So Pirlo, he said a few things, but one thing I wanted to point out is he said that we had prepared for a different match. We wanted to attack this space in behind with our forwards and our wingers, and we needed to move the ball faster because they defended well. When you attack down the middle against 11 players behind the ball, everything becomes harder. So I was already, kind of discussing this on Twitter a little bit, and I think we'll get into it more later on. But my initial reaction to this is, well, I mean, so what do you do about that? So you're recognizing that we can't break through when we have the ball for majority of the game, and which means that the other team is gonna have all their players behind the ball, and you got to start to try to break through and have that creativity spark something. So you're recognizing that, and then so what's happening? Like, did we see anything change? Because that was pretty much the story for the whole game. So Porto caught a break, and we'll kind of get into Bentancur a bit later as well. Uh, but I just don't get it, and that was pretty much the uh, the words that came out of the mouths of all the players who were interviewed, like along with Alexandro and Danilo. They both mentioned that it was difficult to break the team down. So I don't know where you go from there, because there's gonna be more difficult teams than Porto if we do get by. Like, what are your thoughts on that quote and Pirlo's approach and his ability to change things, or going forward? What do you think he should do?
Look, I think everybody knew going into this game. We all read the reports. Porto has been a team that defends very solidly as a unit. I think they went like several games without conceding before this. The commentator kept yelling it during the game, so I couldn't forget it. I could tell you that. But
Yeah, it was their whole Champions League campaign so far. They haven't conceded a goal at home
right, and it's pretty impressive. You got to give it to them. So
with
I
the group with Manchester City.
was going to say Manchester City was in that group. So you got to consider, if we as fans know that, that means obviously the staff knew that. Now, his idea of attacking the space and moving the ball fluidly, I feel like he's mentioned this before in the past with other games. And obviously, we know that if you go 11 players through the middle, it's not going to work against defense like this. But what I fail to comprehend is what he's saying and what we actually did. I don't think that's really on his tactics. I think that's more just on the players not actually performing today, because I don't think we can really judge him on what he wanted to do, because we didn't really get to see it. I mean, the one time we actually broke through their lines on the wing and played into the space fluidly was when we actually scored. I mean, it wasn't the best play in the world, but we could say that at least we got behind their line with a simple through ball on the wing, and it came back in.
I
But
like that you bring that up though, because I mean, how did that attack start? So we were in the defensive phase and we transitioned out into a counter attack, right?
mhm.
Um, and I feel like that's been our best few games, or our best games of the season have been like the Roma, the Inter game, like how we've defended so well and we were able to have few chances but be clinical with those few chances, as opposed to, keeping the ball for majority of the game. I think we had 65.3% of the possession today. And I mean, according to who scored. And then additionally, according to who scored, I think we had 12 shots and 5 on target, something around that range. And I mean, like, if you really think about it, what were the shots? Like the Rabiot overhead and then like the goal.
The goal, yeah. I mean, there was no, that was offside, so it's not counted as an
Exactly. The
attempt.
Morata one, I think you're
I'm thinking
thinking.
the Morata one
Yeah.
too. And what else aside that? I mean, I don't know if they're counting. There's the off target. Obviously, there was Bentancur shot that went over. There was Danilo shot that went way over.
Yeah. Yeah, I
And
saw like 5 on target. So I don't know
yeah,
where those came from, but I mean, if you watch the game, you knew that, we were lucky to get an away goal. Like,
yeah,
let's be honest, right? And so my point basically there is, cuz I know there's a lot of talk on Twitter, and I try to be objective as much as I can. Um but there's like the debate, well, is it on the players or is it on the coach? And I always think like it can't just be on one or the other, right? Yes, we had an individual mistake and that has costed us, throughout the season. However, we played terribly. And just like the Napoli game, the individual mistake came early on in the game. And we had all of that time, to make the difference. And even at 2-0, they look like I tweeted out like, the one away goal, and you're halfway there. You're halfway across the line with that away goal. And it just looked like no one even cared about it. And like I feel like we were lucky to get that goal. So I don't know.
you're right. I mean, there was a point where I think in the 60th minute, I think we're just like, you know what, it's not gonna go in. I think I was this close to turning off my TV if I wasn't, watching my actual dog. If not, I would left. I would have left. I wouldn't have been able to watch. And I'm pretty sure a lot of people who were watching did the same thing, because I did see some people mention it. And around that like 70th minute, 75th minute, you're like, this is not going to happen. They're not going to get in, even with all the subs we have coming in. Like, there's no drive. Then you just see randomly out of nowhere an attempt come out, and you're like, oh shit. And I freaked out when we scored. I freaked out because I thought either I'm watching the wrong game or some miracle just happened, because it was actually a nice play. Like you said, it came from a counter. So I wanted to build off what you said with the counterattack, and how that's been the most effective part of our game. When you look at how this, I'm going to say how Juve's, I'm going to say their style of play has been in the last couple of years. What has it been? We've been known in the past. You go back with Allegri, it was defend, 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 counter, and score, right? Then continue to defend. Obviously, that came to bite him in the ass at one point, and we are where we are today. Saudi, I don't even know what the style was. It was just hope for brilliance. Now with Pirlo, it comes and goes. I don't know which it is anymore. But one thing is for certain, and we saw this against Napoli, against Roma, we could defend. We know how to defend. We have the defenders. Today, obviously, that wasn't the case. But we also can counter. Look at the forwards we have. We have young, raw talent. We got Chiesa and Kulu. You can say what you want about them, but they, with the ball, with their feet, attacking the opponent, have the pace. Especially even Morata has the pace to do it, to take on players on the counter. And we've gotten a lot of goals, especially when we played in like Coppa Italia, where it was Morata, Chiesa, and Kulu all together leading the attack. We've had counters where they were super, super aggressive and they threatened the net every time. Now, like you said, we'll hold the ball for 70% of the game, and then what? Nothing. Napoli, it was exactly that. We held the ball, but we couldn't penetrate for the life of us. And I think Pirlo needs to go back to the drawing board and think maybe we're not that team that holds the ball and makes occasions all the time. That's what Saudi wanted. It didn't work. Maybe we are that team that just needs to defend and counter when we can.
I think with this personnel, like you have to. Um,
Right.
there's no way that Rabiot, Bentancur, and McKennie are gonna create some magical moment. Like they're not. That's just not what you're gonna get from them. Do you know what I mean? Like, first of all, we don't shoot outside the box at all. I know they tried, and that was because that's all we could do was shoot from like the halfway point. We don't have anyone who can score goals from the midfield, and we don't have any creativity from the midfield. Like McKennie, sometimes he gives you that little bit. I also think he's benefiting from where Pirlo has him because he won't he in that position, he's not expected to, carry the ball and possess the ball a lot. So there's less of a chance that, he makes that sort of mistake.
Right.
He's able to get in those positions, make those runs in the box. He's really good in the air. And then the defensive side of things. So that's really why we don't really see him on the ball here and there. But, he's never going to be that guy. And Bentancur is just, I mean, you gave him a 4 in your player ratings. I wanna say that he was your worst of the match. He was my worst of the match for sure. Um, I don't know, was he your
Yeah.
worst of the match as well?
Well, I mean, that goes. I think that goes without saying. I think anybody who thinks otherwise clearly didn't watch the same game. I've been, I've been in a position. I'm not gonna say similar. Like anyone who's played sports and has made a mistake, a big mistake, at one point knows that the rest of the game is a 50-50 on whether your head is in it or not. And even if you want to be in it, sometimes the mistakes just come in small little pieces, but to you it's 10 times in terms of weight because you already made such critical mistakes. So I would have been totally like fine with it if he would have somewhat pulled himself together and gone on to at least have a great game or a stable game afterwards, because you know what, mistakes are mistakes. uh, it happens, and yes, you could judge him on it, but it also depends how you learn from it. I think that's what makes a professional. um, so seeing that he had that issue and then did not get better, and like, yeah, okay, at the end of the game he stabled out, but like that 45 minutes or 44 minutes, because they scored in the first minute, those 44 minutes of that first half were brutal. Like he was sending balls, I just like he couldn't get a diagonal ball across to Chiesa for the life of him, or to Sandro. Even Rabiot couldn't do it. But I mean, yeah, Bentancur worst just because of that issue. Um, I mean, you take away that mistake, and I think he's just as much to blame as everybody else in terms of poor performance. But yeah, I mean, if it wasn't him, it could have been anybody else. And you know what? He's had a bit of a decline, so I wasn't surprised to see the people just jump on his back. It was a bad mistake.
Rightly so, in my opinion. Even last game, like I was just kind of, where was Bentancur? Like I don't even remember him touching the ball or making any sort of significant pass or just anything significant. He was just kind of going through the motions. And I feel like we say that a lot about Bentancur. And I mean a lot about our entire midfield, which is a problem. So just moving on from that, um that was pretty much the post match. They were saying things like to be optimistic for the second leg, and they all kind of mentioned like you can't give gifts like that in the Champions League. You'll 100% get hurt. Um, But let's talk about the guy who did actually save us, save our blushes for the second leg, going into the second leg. Chiesa, how do you rate his performance today?
What did I gave him? I think I gave him a 6 or 6 and a half. He was my best player just because. I mean, look, game ratings. It's a give and take depending on who's giving them. I think a lot of the time the weight is given to the player who actually made a difference in the game or scored a goal. Like there's games where Artur played 10 times better than Ronaldo, but Ronaldo gets one goal and he's the best player of the game. So
Mhm. I'm asking you because I did see a few tweets about that you shout out
yeah,
about Chiesa. I didn't
yeah,
exactly like go through all of them, but I kind of got caught glimpses of them. So
right.
I think you have an opinion on him.
Look, I don't think anybody could deny that Chiesa, especially since 2021 started, has been an absolute uh, star for us. He's been great, and I think that goes to say just with the season in general. But today, I mean, you had to be really blind to see that. Like, although he was trying, you saw at least he had he had a, how do I say this? He had the physical, not presence, but he had that tone or that look in his, just the way he stood and how he went towards the ball, that he wanted it. He had that sense, that physical stance, looking like, I want this. I'm aggressive. I'm going to go into it. But whenever he did, he gave the ball away. Like I saw so many incomplete passes come from him, and it was just like, you could say what you want, switch him sides all you want, Pirlo. It was ineffective in a lot of ways because he would make a feint, get through one, and then just make a pass to the other opposing player. So by the time he scored, I was gonna say, I'm like, okay, good, great finish, congrats, you did very well. But if anybody says that he played well before that, you clearly weren't watching because he has tried, but he was not doing any favors. He was putting the effort, but not executing it on it for sure.
It's hard to say anyone did like well in general. Like it was a pretty brutal performance. I know people are saying I was reading during the game like is anyone awake other than Delict? And
Yeah, but even
I'm just like I don't know though. Is he awake? Like was he not kind of at fault for the second goal?
that's a good point. And you know what? That's why I didn't put such high ratings on most. I think for me, the only person who seemed like his performance was affected only by the game was, I'm gonna say, Danilo, and I might get flack for that. He wasn't terrible, but he wasn't great. Like he didn't make great mistakes. He did what he had to do, and he was in the position that he did. He did his usual job. But the
Mhm.
performance itself was so bad that he also faltered from it. And I would say the same for Delict until that second goal. That second goal, anybody who was there on that left side, Sandro, Delict,
Yeah, that
who else?
was
There was Rabiot was there too. I'm just like, I mean, obviously, Demirel came in and shielded afterwards, but it was too late. I'm just like, if I look at the picture now, I'm gonna have gastro. Like it's getting me. It was so bad. It's like defensive nightmare 101. It
I'm
was
definitely gonna put the picture up uh in this part of the pod for sure. Yeah,
so
it was
bad.
just like everyone was covering like space, but
Exactly.
no one was covering the man.
Man, exactly. That's
And
like the
like
one thing.
he
Oh,
was able to take a bad touch too. And
yeah,
still
yeah. He
like
still got
it's
through.
just wild. That was
That's
just
It reminded me.
wild.
Remember what was that goal against Lazio? Was it the tying goal against that Lazio scored, and everyone bashed on Dybala because he didn't like defend properly? But it was all like Cuadrado and I think Bentancur that didn't press. And nobody
Oh,
saw.
I think I remember, but there's way too many games, but it sounds
Yeah,
familiar.
it was just like it's something like that where everyone just fell asleep and everyone's gonna blame just Sandro because that was his side, but there was so many other people at fault. So going back to like the overall performance, I think you know what even I mean, aside the one or two bad passes afterwards, Chesney, I think he got way too much flack for the first goal.
I was gonna mention Chesney, and I think that he had an awful performance, and not for the first goal, because I think that's fully Bentancur's fault.
Yeah, right.
However, there was a moment where like they had a free kick and he spilled the ball like
Yes,
completely
yes.
un I don't know what
Was
the
it
word
corner?
I'm looking for,
Yeah, no,
but
no, he couldn't. Yeah, he couldn't recuperate at all. I've seen a
yeah,
couple. It was a couple times.
spill the
Yeah,
ball, and then just even after we give up a goal like that, he's continuing to the back, and De Ligt
Right.
was even giving him shit for doing that, basically saying like, you don't have like, just clear the ball at that point. You know what I mean? And like, I think it was a moment where he tried to play out the back still, and then the Porto player went directly to the Porto player, and then he shot and it got deflected,
It
and I thought it
was.
was going in.
It was. I'm pretty
Yeah,
sure I think it was Sancho that slide. If he didn't slid, if he hadn't slid, forget it was. But
I
that's
even thought it
exactly it.
was going in off the deflection. I'm like, come
Yeah, it
on.
went. The
Like
angle didn't look good.
I I was like, like,
He
and
was
this
shaky.
is where
Yeah,
I say, what Pirlo notices that we're struggling out of the back and just struggling to break the team down and things like that, and they're continuing to put themselves in these positions. And then it brings me to my next point about, Bonucci and Arthur, and not having one of them, I feel like makes a difference. And Bonucci gets the criticism he does. You know what you get from Bonucci. It's very easy to look good when you're in front of Buffon and next to Prime Chiellini and Prime Barzali. But he's never been a great defender. Okay, and we play him because of his unique qualities, and that he's better than any of our defenders with the ball at his feet and transitioning into attack, which we've looked awful without him or Arthur. I feel like you got to have one or the other.
I have an argument to be made on that because I do agree that Bonucci is our best ball player from the back. That's I don't have an argument with that. That's a fact and everybody knows it. What I'm uncertain of and what I can't see and what I don't know why it doesn't work. I've seen Delict with the ball. His long balls are pretty, they're pretty stable. He's sent some pretty good long ones. I think the one to Ronaldo on the penalty shot today that wasn't called might have been Delict. I'm not sure, or was it? Anyways, don't quote me on that. But I've seen his ball playing ability. It's not terrible. It's not Bonucci, but it's not terrible. My question now comes: if let's say he has that ability and he's able to see it, is it only on him, or is it our players that aren't making those moves, right?
I
Because you've
think
seen sometimes where I'm sorry, you've
no,
seen
no, go
sometimes
ahead.
where even Bonucci will give that ball and our players are not there on time and they'll mess up either the touch and that's on them, but they're not there on time or they're not making that movement. Even today, Chiellini was like ripping on the mid because at the early stages, no one was offering them. So that's where I guess Artur is missing. But like, if I get the downfall of not having Artur there, but if you're gonna say that Bonucci as well, like yes, they do tie together, but I think the Bonucci problem could be solved, and I think there could be other factors to it. So I always look, I'm like, who's actually moving, right? Who's actually making that run towards him and asking for it? So I
The,
think there's other ways that we could get out aside of relying on Bonucci.
100%. Like I'm not alluding to, it's one player that is gonna, like, we lost because Bonucci wasn't there.
No.
Absolutely
Of
not.
course, yeah, no,
Absolutely not.
yeah,
Um, but you see in like the last two games, and how there was similarities in when, for example, in the first half against Napoli, they pressed us and we were able to get out of the situations, but not effectively enough to create anything. When someone's pressing you that high up, and Porto put us in those positions as well today, um, which caused mistakes essentially. But
yeah,
when someone's pressing you that high up, like that's when you employ a counterattack. Like you break the press, and you're supposed to have space. If you're pressed, that it, it's just kind of like in basketball. If someone's guarding you very closely, like it's gonna leave someone open once you
right.
break that press.
If once you break, you have to
Yeah,
break. Yeah,
exactly. But we were able to we were able to break against Napoli, but there was nothing effective. Like our transition was like there was no ideas going into the attack. And so I don't understand, like, I don't know, I just have a hard time
yeah,
just like it's not even about, a long ball forward. Like that's not even my argument in terms of, why Bonucci should be there. I think in Europe, you need talented players who are technically gifted. It's not as tactical as a Serie A, in my opinion, or like a league. In a league, I think you need to, you have to be sustainable throughout.
Right.
And I don't know, they always say defense is like your defense wins you the league, right?
Right.
I think in Europe it's different. So
It's very different. You're
I
right.
think, Bonucci would be more beneficial in Europe than playing the way Pirlo does. If this is the game Pirlo's going to play, possessing the ball and, having teams allow them to, take the game to them, then I feel like Bonucci needs to be there to have that game, as well as Danilo. On
Makes,
Syria, on the other
yeah.
hand,
Yeah.
or just if you're going to do that defensive approach, then I would take Bonucci out, and Chiellini's the expert at sitting back and just sweeping everything up. So it all depends on Pirlo's approach, but like if he approaches the game like he did today, which was he seemed to be to have that possession game again. I feel like you need someone like Bonucci there.
It makes you wonder: is our setup in Serie A, is the way Serie A is won, is that is that a formula that's possible to win in Europe? Like, when was the last time a Serie A team won in Europe? It was
Yeah, I
Milan,
don't
right?
think I don't think that's sustainable in Europe, and um that's why I feel like Pirlo was given the keys to Juve,
Right.
for
Right.
that kind of like more of a positive, risk taking,
Mhm.
attacking approach football, that usually is rewarded in Europe as opposed to you know the leagues, I guess.
And you saw you know what? I won't lie to you. I thought the same thing, and I thought we would see it, but I think he realized quickly in the league that it wouldn't work that way, and he switched it. And then once we started getting those good performances in the league, these strong defensive games, that's where we started to falter against, you know, completely alter-minded teams. Like, I mean, I'm not going to say Napoli. I mean, Napoli did what we do best to us, but I mean, if you look at
which is what which is essentially what Porto did.
exactly, but I mean, if you, I'm thinking, let's say, look at the 2-0 loss to Merda, right? What did they do? They played, I'm not going to say defensively, but they were high up. Their mid and their forwards were pushing wide, taking the space and moving that ball around very quickly.
But they killed us on the counter
And they killed us on the counter, which I
because
think would work in Europe, right? Wouldn't you think? But it, but it's not.
I
Like,
just don't think that it works like against the Bayerns, and
no, no, no. Well, I mean,
you know what I mean, like.
we put Merda versus Bayern. I'd love to see what happens, but we
But
won't.
that's the thing, right? We got to a final, like two finals that way,
Yeah,
essentially.
yeah. You're
Um,
right. You're right.
in a similar way. I mean, it wasn't as bad as Allegri's last few years, where, but he also had a better team when that he first inherited, like his first season. But
Yeah,
I mean, you argue, um, he basically made the final with a two-man mid of Kadira and Pjanic, and with terrible depth of, like, who was on the bench, Serraro and stuff. Lemina came off the bench in the
oh, Joe,
final.
Joe, let's not go back to 2015. I'm gonna
So
have a
it's
stroke.
hard to think about,
Uh,
like the personnel when you got a guy like Allegri doing that with a team like that.
but then I mean, like
But my point is,
yeah,
you can only get that far with that type of football, I think, in Europe,
right. That's
right?
what I'm saying. And I
However,
think you agree that nowadays, unless you play like Bayern Munich, you're not going anywhere in Europe. And I mean, not to take anything from Bayern Munich, but you see sometimes in the league they get slapped around. They tied this week. They were down, I think, 3-1, and then they tied it up 3-3 versus some team I'd never even heard of. But in Europe, forget it. They're a powerhouse. I mean, it's not what it was last year, but man, last year, wow. and I don't see Juventus becoming that anytime soon. We were close. I thought if anyone could do it, it was Pirlo, but yeah,
No, the
I just
team
feel
the
he
team
can't.
is just not good enough to control the whole game and break through that way. We're just not, like, you look at at Bayern and Man City. Man City seems to be like turned on this season, and especially recently. I know they have their struggles, in the last hurdles in Europe, but you look at these guys like Bernardo Silva, Mahrez, Foden, like all of these guys, De Bruyne, Sterling, these guys, like, and then you look at our team, and it's just
Okay, yeah, but I mean,
like
you look at the
Gundogan.
value of that. Look
You
look
have
at the value. Yeah,
all of
yeah.
these guys that can just like turn it on at any second. So of course they're gonna play that way. They can have the ball all game long, and you just gotta like hold on for your life, so that they don't, like, you gotta be perfect to keep out a squad like that. And then you think Porto is saying that, like, oh man, we gotta be perfect tonight so that we don't miss a beat, or else they're gonna punish us.
Well,
I don't think. Okay, we have Ronaldo.
Ronaldo and Chiesa. I mean, if you see that in the lineup, I'd be worried. But if I looked at Juve's previous games, especially this weekend against Napoli, I wouldn't be because you saw how to deal
Just
with it.
look at our midfield. There's nothing to worry about.
That midfield. I mean, my God, I don't think there's ever going to be a podcast I'm going to do, or even a conversation on Twitter I'm going to have where it doesn't come back to the fucking midfield.
It always has to come back to the midfield. You lose the midfield, you lose the game. That's it.
No, you're right, and I don't disagree. And I think today we were dealt a shitty hand because we had to deal with we had to rely on two midfielders who together, I mean, they have 50-50 games. They can turn it on, they can turn it off. Most of the time it's the latter. It's just like
Are you concerned about, first minute of the game? We give that up. First minute of the second half, we give that up.
I mean, look, if you really want to analyze it that way, that's called just being focused, being mentally into the game. And we all know how Juventus is sometimes, where they're just not focused. It's been the scapegoat in the last like 3 years.
But
Oh, we weren't focused.
whose job is that though?
I don't think that goes back to Pirlo because how much can a coach do? Like, yeah, okay, you could be the inspirational type, or you can't. It's one of the two. But I think when you look at his situation, you've got guys with years of experience in that lineup, in that locker room, who could do exactly what he doesn't do. Like, we all know that Pirlo is a quiet type. Everyone says it. But you've got Bonucci, Buffon, Chiellini, Ronaldo. You guys like this in your locker room next to you. Like, you smell their shin pad odor because they're right there. And you're telling me they can't boost you up? Like, if you got a lack of focus, I'm sorry, it's not on the coach. If you have a brain fart during the game, it's on you as a player. And I think it just happened twice to like multiple players today.
Was that a brain fart though? The first one was definitely an individual mistake.
Yeah, that was a lack of just. I think that was just
This
lack of seriousness.
the second one though was like, okay, he got the ball on the right side, right? And then they made like a few give and goes. Okay, Sandro got beat. Now who's the next guy up? Now who's the next guy up? Okay,
Oh,
who's covering that guy? He was
oh
one,
my god.
like one Marega, I think is his name, scored the goal. Um, who's marking him? And
Uh,
like the issue I have with, I guess, Delict, and whatever. If I get bashed for it, I get bashed for it. Um, like when we played against Inter in the first leg of the Coppa Italia, it was just Lautaro, the only guy who could have been passed to in that situation. The Ligt was there with him, and then he was gone, and he was the only guy in the box. And like this was the same scenario. And Demiral tried to like salvage it at the end, but like the
he's not
Ligt was
making that.
like near the byline, and I didn't understand that at all. So I
Yeah.
don't know if that's, that is that lack of concentration. Like, is
Call
that
it
is
what
that
call it what you
on
call
is that
yeah.
on like all those individual players?
You know what? I don't think we could point fingers today. I think there's going to be so much back and forth. Like people are saying, like, who do we blame now? You know, like you can go up, you can go to the coach, you can go to the players. I mean, I think everyone is. It's a team. It's a team. It's a team sport. Everyone was at fault today. I say, put your heads down, get your asses back to Torino, and train like crazy animals. Because here's the best part: we have a game against Crotone on Monday, and you know what? I am nervous.
I'm I was just about to say, like, first of all, from this game, what would you did you find any positives about this game?
Wow. I don't. I didn't think I have no answer to that. I think the only positive we can get out of this game. No, I don't have a positive. Holy crap! What can I think of? Nothing. I mean, you could make the argument that like we woke up in the last 10 minutes, but that's not
Yeah,
even a
we literally
positive.
played for 10 minutes.
That's not a positive. No, I don't have any positive take. I think the only thing to take away is that it ended. We're still there at the end. I think the away goal was okay. Let's put it this way: the best thing about today's game is that Chiesa can finish, and we have an away goal. That's it.
Hey, that's a good point actually, about Chiesa, because I feel like that was his criticism from coming from Fiorentina.
Yeah,
The fact that he couldn't finish, wasted a bunch of chances. There was always kind of clips of him like near the net, in front of the net, and just missing like open net type of chances. So that's actually a massive point that you made. Um, that he's showing that he's a finisher, not only a winger. Like, we look back at Douglas Costa, and he can never finish as well. He was brilliant, one v one, and he was definitely a spark. And I'm sure we were all very hopeful for him and our chances in Europe having him on our team, because I feel like you need that flair. But but yeah, for sure, that's a positive, and I think that's probably the best thing out of the game that you mentioned. I didn't even really click that again. He was great in his finishing. Um,
that was a hard ball to finish. Like the
Absolutely, the
commentators,
way
the
it
only
bounced
thing,
up.
yeah, he put it on the inside of his foot, and even though he knew it was going to bounce, he put it towards the net, which just like a header, if you're bouncing it and it's going at least towards the net, it's more often than not deadly because it's harder to stop on that bounce. So you know what? I'm stoked. I'm happy because he's playing relatively well with us. He looks motivated and driven. I think for him, like I like him on the wing, but I'm thinking more and more, and people have mentioned, why don't we slide him more centrally? Because he has that finishing, right? He
For
has that.
Chiesa?
I don't think he has that ability to be a striker, but I mean, if you play him in a 4-3-3, which a lot of people keep talking about, I could see it being relatively effective because as a four, if we're looking at it as a 4-4-2, as him as a winger, I think he's got only so much effectiveness and ability to affect that top of the box or around the box. Like he's gotten a lot of goals, don't get me wrong, but how many of them were coming in from a certain position, like coming from that wing?
Are we
I think
talking about Chiesa?
yes, 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 yes.
Okay, because it sounds a lot like Kulusevski.
Yeah, okay. No, no, I didn't get into Kulusevski. And I don't think. Well, we could get into Kulusevski.
I
uh,
honestly like Chiesa. I've been shouting for 4-3-3 for a while, but and I would put Chiesa on the right wing with Morata in the middle and Ronaldo on the left. But Kulusevski, I just don't
oh,
know about him. And
I
I mean,
don't.
I might get stick for him too,
No, I'm on
but
your side. I'm on your side 100%,
but
which
I've
I
been
know you're going.
saying this from the beginning of the season that I just didn't get the hype from him. And for sure, he has glimpses. For sure, 100%. The kid's like what, 20 years old?
20. I don't know if he hit 21, but yes.
Something like that. No doubt, I'd have him on my bench to come off it and try to make a difference. 100%. I don't think that he's material, to start, and he wouldn't be on my Champions League, 11, Champions League final 11. Um, Definitely could be a game changer. I just don't think he's definitely not okay. Oh my god. this really rattles me because he is not a striker, not even close to a striker.
No, I
He's
know.
barely a winger, barely a
Exactly, which
winger.
is hilarious.
Yeah, barely a winger, not even close to being a striker. I think, I'm not an expert, but the way he moves with the ball, and he does have a heavy touch, but it's nice and like calm and soft when he plays a through ball. It just reminds me of a guy who needs to be behind the strikers, in a more central position. You put him on the wing. First of all, him and Dybala, they can't play together. If Dybala is playing as a second striker, he can't. Kulusevski can't be on that right side because 9 times out of 10 they're in each other's zone. Like 100%, we saw that. Every time that they were on the field together. And then the other thing is that he never uses his right foot. He's always cutting in back towards his left, and it often, when he was played on the wing, it often just resulted in a pass backwards. So I struggle when guys are played out of position just to clock some minutes. If you need to be played out of position just to get some field time, it questions it, I mean, like, I question whether you are actually a good player.
I hate to admit it, but I did say, like, I think when Kulusevski made his first or second start as that second attacker, I think it was in the Copa, one of the Copa games. I did
Oh,
like
well, who
push
was it
for.
against? Spal?
No,
Come
no,
on.
I think it was before that against.
No, I'm just poking fun because
It might have been, no.
he's
I think it
had
was
great
before that.
he's had good games against weak opposition, let's be
Yeah,
real,
yeah, no, no.
right?
Who do we play before Spout? Was it Sassuolo? No.
Genoa.
Oh, Genoa. Okay, right. So it was
Genoa,
against
we
Genoa.
struggled.
Yes, but I think it was one of the first or the second game. I'm not sure which one it was. When we initially put him there, and it was still during January, so all the rumors were around. I said, I'm like, you know what? Save the money because Scamacca, I think, was the option. Was
Oh,
our
okay.
option.
Well, I
I
mean,
was
if you're
like,
gonna go get that guy,
well, that's
then
exactly it. My argument
then
was,
definitely don't do that. A
my
hundred
argument
percent,
was,
I'm with you there. I'm with you there.
well, that's it. So I'm gonna admit it. I was for having Kulu as that fourth striker because our options were limited. If we can get, I mean, Giroud in, people were against it. I was like, you know what?
Oh no, he would have been golden,
Right. I would be
golden.
totally okay, like, because that's exactly what we needed. But seeing as the only guy apparently available was Skamak, and I was like, for 30, 40 mil for this piece of
No,
garbage? I'm like,
yeah,
no, keep Kulu. At least he's in our squad, and he'll be used and get the minutes. But now I'm seeing it. He can only do so much. Like, he was good, I think, against Inter on this. Was it the second leg, where he had to like tuck in and hold Brozovic from doing a lot of his playing,
yes,
which
yes, he was good defensively.
which was great.
Yeah,
Give him that. He sacrificed himself for the team. Great. After hearing Pirlo put him on today because Morata wasn't 100%, again, you can't really say much because that's unfortunately the situation. But I think something has to be done or said during the game because, like you said, he's terrible. And like, I honestly have not seen someone that bad with their back to the opponent. Like, he can turn only if you give him space. If you're
that's
up
a,
against him, forget it. He can't turn, and he has
that's the problem.
zero balance. He slips all the
Yeah,
time.
that's the problem. Like, that I feel I have with him in in any other position, uh, other than he's facing the goal and he's
Right.
driving toward the goal, and he's not a winger. He can't, like, he rarely beats guys one on one, and it's not like, I feel like it's more of his body, and that's how he beats them rather than his feet.
Yeah.
He's not quick enough to be a winger.
No, he's not, and
It,
he's too big and clunky. Like, he is
yeah,
complete opposites in that sense where, you know, Fede, when he's up against someone, he'll either go down quickly and get the foul or he'll beat them one on one. Whereas Kulu, it's like, yeah, you got an elegant, nice touch and you're good with your ball going towards an opponent, but man, he cannot outpace somebody. Like, he can, but like you said, he'll put his shoulder in at one point because he can't pace wise keep up with
mhm.
it.
And you
Oh,
think, like, it's easy to say in retrospect, but I put up a picture of I put up two pictures on Twitter. speaking of strikers, and it's the report
I saw that. I
of
saw that.
Haaland, and it's
Yeah.
like 22 million euros, and it's Kulusevski with 30 million pounds. Um, it makes you think, like, where does he fit in this team? Like, was he necessary? Was it just to like take another prospect away from other Italian teams? I don't know, because I just don't know where he fits in this team.
I think he's a good prospect. I don't think that's off the table yet. He's like everyone's gonna say he's still young and he still has glimpses. But what I think most people fail to see is that he was purchased in January, right? I think he was a Saudi signing more than anything else. He fits the 4-3-3 better than he does in this system, and
But
that's
what is
where.
who does he fit, like, as a false nine?
Well, how did he play at Parma? He played on the wing as a third up front, correct?
At times, but I think people were calling for him to be more in the middle, because when he had those stints in the middle of the park, he
Yeah,
was
as a
flourished
false nine,
better.
right? So I think people often forget that he was bought for that reason during that time. So I think now, I'm not saying Pirlo stuck with him, but I don't think it was a Pirlo player. Obviously, we knew that because we didn't think Pirlo would be there last January. But look, I think, like you said, as a sub, great. I think as a starter, only if we're stuck or if it's a weaker opponent. But I mean, there's only so much we could say. I think we said everything we have to say. The kid has to just prove himself more than that.
Yeah, yeah, 100% agree. Um, yeah, nothing more to say about that. What I do want to ask you is so what do we do for the next leg? How would you approach the next leg? What are your predictions about the next leg? Um, who are the key players? Yeah,
Next leg is in 3 weeks, right?
something like that. I think it's at some point in March.
Right. So my only takeaway from today is that once we went down 2 goals, there was a fire. It wasn't like we were a better team, but you saw that sense of like, okay, we're idiots. Let's get back into this game. And especially since we have the away goal, you saw it in the last 10 minutes, say, okay, they're waking the F up now. So my hope is that come 3 weeks from now, when they come to our stadium, I hope to God we don't concede. But even if we do, I
That's my
think,
gut feeling.
yeah, I'm almost sure we will at least one. But I think, I'm hoping, forget thinking, I'm hoping at this point that with the schedule we have in the league now, that we can build up some decent performances, some decent form, get the players we need back for that tie. If we go into that second leg with at least, I'm going to say, at least Dybala back in some sort of form or health, and maybe Artur coming back, then I think hopefully we got a chance to take it to them. Because if we don't have at least one or two of those, I think it's back to ground zero again, and we just have to play better. But
So
that said, I expect us to either kill them and like go ahead and pass, or get completely embarrassed. I think it's gonna be either like today, or it's gonna be like our win against Roma, one of the two.
so the thing is, we both kind of agreed that we'd get scored on. Okay, so they score on us, and
We have to
then
score two
we
after.
and then we
Okay,
need to score 3 goals. Essentially, we need to win 3-1 at that point,
3-1. You're right. Oh,
right?
I don't. I take that
There's
back
no way
then.
we're scoring 3 goals. There's no way,
Mm-mm.
right? Like, and I brought this stat up, so many times in recent weeks, that we have the highest percentage of possession in Serie A per game, and we're sixth in Serie A in goals
In
scored
goals, yeah.
and in chances created. So I mean, I can't see us winning, like, scoring 3 goals, especially, Porto. If they nick one early, especially, all they have to do is just sit back and nick another, because that's what's gonna happen. if we play this way. And I know, you got to play with that urgency because you are down, so you have to score. So which scares me because we're awful defensively in transition, especially playing this possession game where where the defenders, the center backs are high up in the pitch. I don't I don't know.
Look, I think right now it's a little early, a little premature to really make good assumptions, not assumption predictions. I think we're both still emotional about it, especially now that it's the same day. But I think we can't really make a call until we're closer. But it's going to be really dependent on how our next 3 games go in the league. We're playing lower sides, and although like the statistician and everybody is like, oh, we should be okay. We all know that against teams like Crotone or I think Hellas Verona afterwards, we're gonna have a hard time. But if we're able to, even if we win by 1 goal against these teams, I don't care. We need wins. We need wins, and we need to rebuild because it's 2 games in a row we lose now, which is, considering how our January went, it's pretty shitty because we've had a good start to the year
Yeah, and
against
it looks
all these
like
top teams.
you take all these steps forward, and then
Yeah, and you shoot yourself in the foot.
yeah, and it looks like you're turning a corner finally, it's just getting things right, being tactically flexible, and then here we are again,
Yeah.
same story type of thing. So what do you think Pirlo's fate is if we don't pass the next round of the Champions League? Do you think it's like, what do you think it's dependent on? Where do you draw the line?
You want my personal opinion, or you want to know what's going to happen?
Yeah, of course I want your personal opinion.
Because there's 2 ways of looking at it, right? There's always what we think, and then there's what will actually happen because of past history. I
Well, I
voiced
mean,
it.
past history, he's not going anywhere. That's my opinion.
Yeah,
No
because
matter what,
he's
no
not
matter what
Sadi.
he does.
Exactly. Um, Personally, I think he will stay no matter what happens. We can go trophy. Well, we haven't. We're not going to go trophyless because of the Supercopa. But to me,
Oh yeah, no,
that's not really a trophy.
that's
Sorry.
trophyless.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, good. I'm glad we agree on that. If he goes trophyless, I still think he's going to be around because one, there's no options of other people to buy in terms of managers. Who's out there? And if there is anybody, you're going to have to break the bank, and I don't think we can. And secondly, I think he is.
What about Allegri? I think he's free.
Oh, don't. I know you like him. I liked him too, but don't be that person, Monica. Don't go backwards, please. I don't want to get into that.
Twitter is asking. There was someone who tweeted. That's why I mentioned this discussion about Pirlo and what do you think Allegri, or what would it take for Allegri to be called back in?
Even if he comes back in, I don't think he can ever pull off what he did. And even if he does, it's like
You don't
no.
think he has you don't think he has a better team than he did in
He
2017?
probably does, but I feel like he does better with a shittier team than he does with a better team, because and I might be wrong here, but look
But
at the team he left.
he had that team in 2015 who was pretty good.
Yes, because we look at it that way. But if you look at the bench, we said it, Lemina.
No, but that was 2017. I'm saying when we made the final against Barca, that was a pretty damn good
That
team.
was a damn. Yeah, you're right. It wasn't a terrible team, but
like, what was the weakest spot? Maybe up front.
yeah,
Maybe.
that was. I
And
mean,
you still had Tevez and Morata, right?
exactly, which
I mean,
wasn't terrible.
you basically lost to Messi, Neymar, and
you lost to
Suarez,
Messi
and
and
that's it.
Yeah.
You know.
Look, I love Allegri, but I don't think. I definitely don't think he should come back. And if he does, I think he's just gonna taint any like good like thoughts we have of him. It's like no. He ended what he did.
You don't think Pirlo's doing that?
Maybe. You know what? I don't know. Like
or it might happen. I mean, I don't think anyone's there yet. I think he didn't lose us yet.
No, because the thing is with Pirlo, and people forget to look at, is that although he's had some issues, it's the closest we've wanted this Juventus side to look like in the last 3 years. Ever since Ronaldo came in, we've been looking for this attacking, like we were talking about, European-minded team. And although, we're not there. We're far from it. We've seen better glimpses with him than we have with anybody else. Allegri, maybe 2015, like we said, but 2017, it wasn't like it wasn't that we didn't have a good team. It just again it was minded for City I. I don't think it was you went up against Madrid and you got completely clapped. Like I don't know, something wasn't there, and I think our run up was just.
But you also lost to, I mean, they weren't in the greatest form, and that's a lot of the reason why people thought it was actually going to be our year, because they had their struggles, Madrid, that year. But I mean,
Right,
you still lost to like Ronaldo,
because at the end of the day,
Modric,
it's a final. It's not a
Cruz,
two-legged thing, and a team like Madrid, like that we lost to, is a one game.
serial winner.
Yeah, that's it. You put them in that game, they're gonna win.
Yeah.
I mean,
For me, it's going to be tough to swallow a trophyless season.
it will be, and I'm not saying it will be easy for anybody, especially anybody who's new post banter era, me included, because I'm still young. I wasn't there to see it, but
Yeah. I was
I'm
there for the banter era, but nothing really.
so I've had this discussion with multiple people. It's gonna be rough. It's gonna be tough. It's not gonna be easy pill to swallow. But if you are anything of a realistic sports fan or even an athlete, you know that losing is part of the sport, and you just move on. And we have been blessed to win 9 years in a row. So you know what? If it comes now, it's gonna suck. But as I keep saying, I'd rather, as long as it's not Merda up top, I'm okay with it.
I
It
think
can be
the
anybody
issue
but them.
I think the issue is that, it's not even that, we may lose the Scudetto.
It's
We're
that they
fighting
might
for a
win.
Champions League spot.
No, okay, no, I haven't gone that far yet. I haven't gotten that much loss of faith. I still think we can finish top four, but that very much depends again on the next month. You know,
I mean, I don't know.
we're gonna
My
have to
my
see.
my gut tells me that he's gonna stay regardless.
Yeah,
I mean, he
regardless.
he needs to make the Champions League 100%. He
Yeah,
needs to come in top
that I think
four.
is a big factor. If he doesn't make top four, oof, that's gonna hurt. I
That
think that
that
might.
will that we can do a whole nother podcast about that. Well, what that would do to our team and financially,
Oh fuck!
especially.
I didn't even think about that. Oh my god.
So, so you're more of a sexy FC as opposed to boring FC then.
Yes, and you know what? I'm not afraid to admit it. Like I came into the Juve world and as a fan, seeing the boring, like just brick wall defending. But those days of seeing those counterattacks and the exciting, like thrilling attack, like that for me, especially now that I've witnessed the European teams like Bayern just ripping it apart with their flair in Europe, it's like we need to be like that. I don't see any way of adapting. And I mean, the older minded fans might think otherwise, but maybe City A might be won by better defense, but the Champions League is not. And I think that is a clear fact.
And so my hot take is we are never gonna be that team. As long
I don't disagree. I definitely agree with you. Yeah.
especially as long as Bentancur, Rabiot, and McKennie and Arthur are the guys making up our midfield.
I think we're just gonna have to wait for that year where we get close enough to being that team, and that everyone else is just terrible. We just got to get everything lucky.
We almost had it right if it wasn't, I guess, for Ronaldo and
Oh,
Messi and co.
that was a good no.
The
2015 was good.
2015, the 2015
2015,
team.
yeah, that was 2017. I could make so many judgments, but 2015 was like, oh, it's beautiful, beautiful.
We went up against that
The
stellar
best, the
attack.
best, the best attack in the world. Yeah,
Yeah. So that's my hot take. That that will never be a good enough team to play in that way. Be sexy FC.
yeah.
Not with this midfield for sure. I'm
I
not
think
even
that
sure.
I think
Look,
that ties back to the league again. I think City A is just not a. It's too much strategy. It's not. It's not flair like the Premier League. Well, I wouldn't say the Bundesliga, but like, yeah, the Bundesliga's got goals at least. Like how like only this season have I seen City A
yeah,
games
it's
where
not. I
there's
mean, it's not tactical. The
no. It's
Bundesliga.
no. Like, I mean, they
Yeah.
could say what they want, but it's not Italy. Every striker that goes to Italy knows what I'm talking about right now and
Yeah.
what we're talking about.
Exactly.
There's
Yeah.
so many tactics. It's crazy.
So what's your hot take then?
Oh, yeah, I agree with you. And I don't want to say, like, I'm thinking long term. I know as a fan, like, we've won everything but the Champions League, but winning that Champions League is going to be probably the hardest thing I'm going to see in my entire lifetime for Juventus.
So give me a one-liner. A
You want
one-liner,
a
a
hot take?
one-liner hot take could be about anything. Juve, like Serie A, Champions League, management, Pirlo, anything. Controversial,
Oh
hopefully,
God.
because
Oh God.
we like to
You
do
put me in
that
the press.
around here.
I have nothing on the top of my head right now, and I feel like anything I'm going to say is just not going to either sound as good or it's going to get heat. One of the two.
We like
Oh,
the heat. We like the heat.
oh man, I don't know.
No hot takes.
I mean, I could say this: Juventus right now, and even going forward, will never be the team it was in the last maybe 5 years. Ever since Allegri left, or even why he was there, it's not going to be the same. Football has changed, but Serie A and the way Juventus is built, or even if we change our logo or our brands or our media, whatever you want to call it, we're not going to be able to ever be what we're used to be. And I think trying to become something new was our biggest mistake. I think we should have just stayed to what we were true to and at least die by that sword rather than trying to evolve. And I hate to admit it, but I'd rather be the traditionalist and die that way than try to be something that we're not and fail this way. I don't know if that's a hot take, but I feel like ever since we tried this rebrand, it's gone a lot worse than it's gotten better. If that makes any sense.
Oh man, I could probably bring up Ronaldo right now, but
Yeah, exactly. And you know what? I would not judge you for it because I think he's part of the problem. And that's another hot take. I mean, no one wants to admit how much we're spending on this guy and how much we're losing on the rest of our team. Like, I don't care what Madrid was able to do with him. He was younger and they had more money than we did to get the rest of the team in place. Like, we don't. Look at our midfield.
but you can argue, like, I think maybe it's time to move on. I don't know. I don't know. It's
It's a tough one.
hard. It's hard because it felt like he was the missing piece, but like there was just too many other pieces, that got lost in the puzzle. So it hasn't worked out. And like Chiesa was the first player to score a knockout goal since Ronaldo has arrived. Last one being Matuidi against Ronaldo's team, in that almost comeback in 2018, right? So I mean, I
Oh,
feel like that's an issue. And then you look, is the team the issue? Is Ronaldo the issue? And that's why he's the only guy scoring because we're trying to work as hard for him, um or is it just the rest of the team is just not good enough and he's just a lone wolf? And I just don't know if we should move on. But then you argue, like, look at our midfielders, they're on like 7.5, 8 million euro wages, which is just like Ramsey played. How many games has he played for us? Rabiot just like going through the motions. And then you have the Dybala issue where he wants like 15 mil. And you're just like, definitely you can't put that into this guy, or else, you're tied up all over again with him.
there's so much, and again, there can be a podcast on every topic. Uh, I think we're in the situation we're in right now, and I think we have to just work our way out of it. As fans and people analyzing this, we can only speculate so much, but we don't know enough to be making decisions. We just can go off what we see and what we hear, and you're right. I think if you look at our midfielders, how much they're making, and you can also look at how we're spending our money. 30 mil on Kulu rather than 22 on Haaland. It's like it's decisions like that, and again, that could once again go to the top of the hierarchy, and you can go shit on the guys up there. But I mean, it starts there, and it just runs downhill. If they can't do it, then the guy there under there can't do it, and then he's to blame, and the guy under there can't do it. The players can't; they're going to be to blame. In the end, the Juve fan base is just one giant circle of shit being stirred.
It's true
And
though. They all just want us to live ahead and all this other nonsense that they put out to keep the brand going. And it's just like all we want is a good midfield.
no, I don't. I disagree, because then when we have a good midfield, there's gonna be bitches about the forwards again. Same way like it was in 2015, or I guess you could say 2017. We had decent mid, but then what were our options up front? What do? We signed Higuain. What did that do? Nothing. Now we signed Ronaldo. You thought he was the missing piece? Nope.
But
So it's a
you think
circle.
we
That's
had
it.
a good midfield when Higuain was there? I don't know about that.
Oh, I mean, it wasn't. I
I
take
don't
that
know.
back.
Pjanic,
But
Khedira,
that's
Matuidi.
but that's exactly my
I
argument.
don't
Is
know if
that
that's good midfield.
we spent, like Ronaldo, we spent more on our striker,
I
thinking
just
that was the issue.
I just feel like, we get missing pieces, but then we lose other pieces. So then we need to
It's
get
never, yeah.
those missing pieces. Like our only complete team was in 2015. And I guess you can argue that, we probably didn't have depth at that point because, we just started getting back into Europe and becoming a big team again in Europe. So you can argue that we probably, lacked in depth, but that was definitely our most complete team. I really don't think 2017 we had a strong team, but everything was clicking, and you kind of felt that it was our year. But I mean, like we said, we can go on and on. I still believe we pass against Porto. I just think we're more talented, and we find ways. Like today, I didn't think that we were gonna score. We could have went on and played and play that match for like 15 more hours, and we wouldn't have scored.
Which I'm glad you brought up, because at the last 10 minutes they were very shaky at the back. Like Morata almost got a second. I think it was ruled offside, but we got our chances. They were very open, and
Mhm.
I think if Pirlo plays his cards right and we have the right players, I think anything's possible in the second leg. I mean, that goes for not only Champions League, but that goes for the league as well.
Not to disrespect Porto, but it is Porto, right? And that I feel like that's the
Yeah.
reason, why we even got a goal, because just our talent level is much higher, quality individually though, right?
Hmm. Hmm. And then
So
the bigger question is, what happens if we do go through, and who we play after? Oh,
that's what
I
I
don't want
mean,
to. I
right?
don't even want to think about that
But
though.
that's what I mean. Like I think we have enough to beat Porto, which is just crazy that we're even debating this. Like it's crazy that we're even questioning our abilities, when we're supposed to. I mean, we have Ronaldo, for God's sakes. Like, are you in a rebuilding mode? But you have Ronaldo, so pick which one you are. That just irks me. You get Pirlo, but we have Ronaldo. You're trying to make this project, but we have Ronaldo. You're paying him 30 mil a year, but you have Pirlo, and we're in a whatever rebuild. Doesn't make sense to me. And yeah, I don't think we get by if we get a decent opponent. And I guess at that stage, you're gonna run into Liverpool's and PSG's, and they're gonna kill us.
On that counter.
They're
It's gonna
just
hurt.
gonna kill us if they let us have the ball for sure. Um, all right.
But we worry about that when we get there, if we get there.
Yes. Yeah, if we get there. I think we do against Porto. So we'll leave it optimistic in that sense. The away goal was crucial, and we're happy to have Freddie Church, on the score sheet, giving us hope, giving us that hope. Um, I want to say thank you to Luca for joining me today. After a pretty raw recording, raw and full of emotions after this loss in the Champions League to Porto 2-1, going into turn. Thank you for filling in last minute and taking the time to quickly uh, put the food away on your dinner table, uh, so you don't get yelled at by your family.
You're making me look like that little kid in
You're
every
that
Italian
classic
household.
Italian boy.
Unfortunately, I am. So I had no choice.
No worries. So yeah, thank you again. And for anyone watching, subscribe to the reJUVEnation on YouTube. Follow me at Monica Loriola. And what's your at? Put in your at there.
At real Juve snob, I believe.
At
I'm
real Juve snob. That's
I'm
Luca.
I'm pretty sure. If not, you could just go on Monica's tweets and look at her retweets, and you'll find me somewhere there.
All right, and I'll post the link, and I'll definitely tag Luca as well, so you can follow him there. So we're gonna sign off here. Fino alla fine, as always. Forza Juve. Thanks again, Luca.